The night before she married him, she begged me to be her last. I never thought I'd hear those words. Especially not from Eleanor, the woman who had once promised me forever. Yet there she was, trembling in my arms, whispering between frantic kisses that she needed me, that we needed one last night before she took the vow she couldn't break. I thought we were over, but deep down, I knew this wasn't just a final goodbye. This was a confession. She didn't know it yet, but her desperation was about to cost her everything. I let her believe she was still in control. That night, we shared something that felt like love, something raw, unfiltered. As if all the years of being apart, of her marrying him, never happened. But when the sun rose the next morning, I could see it in her eyes. She knew she had made a terrible mistake, yet there was nothing she could do now. The wedding was just hours away. What she didn't realize was that I had no intention of letting her walk down that aisle. For months, I had been watching from the shadows, waiting for the moment when she'd slip up, when the cracks in her perfect life would finally show. I saw how she smiled at him, her soon-to-be husband, how that smile didn't reach her eyes. I saw how she would touch his arm in public, pretending they were the perfect couple, when I knew she was only pretending. But her lies weren't just hers. They were mine too. Because I let her think she could have it all. I let her believe she could leave me without consequence. But now, I was going to make sure she realized the true price of betrayal. As I stood at the back of the church, watching her walk toward him, I whispered under my breath, "You'll regret this, Eleanor. You'll regret this more than you know." And in that moment, I realized, she wouldn't just regret it, she would pay for it. Before everything crumbled, before the lies and betrayals, Eleanor was the light of my life. We met in college, two strangers thrown together by fate. Or maybe by the universe's cruel sense of humor. I was the quiet guy, the one who kept to himself, lost in books and music. She was a social butterfly, the center of every room, effortlessly charming everyone around her. She had this way of making you feel like you were the most important person in the world, even if you were just a fleeting moment in her life. And for a while, I was her person. She made me feel like I mattered, and for the first time, I was seen. To her, I wasn't just the shy, overlooked guy, I was her rock. I was her confidant, the one she turned to when life got messy. We spent nights talking until the sun came up, sharing our dreams, our fears, our broken parts. It felt like we were building something real, something unshakable. But maybe I should have known better. Life wasn't ever that simple. Eleanor wasn't perfect, and neither was I. But we were good together, or so I thought. There was always a sense of distance between us, something I couldn't quite put my finger on. At first, I chalked it up to our different worlds. She was the party girl, the socialite who thrived on attention and affection, while I was the introspective one, content with a quieter life. But the longer we were together, the more I realized that something inside her was missing. She wasn't just searching for a connection, she was searching for validation. She needed to feel desired, adored, and I gave that to her. But I gave too much. And it was in the silence between our conversations, in the moments when I wasn't looking, that I began to notice cracks in the facade. Eleanor's need for attention wasn't just a passing phase, it was a hunger that couldn't be satisfied. She would flirt with others when I wasn't around, laugh a little too loudly at someone else's jokes, allow a hand to linger on her arm in ways that weren't innocent. I pretended not to see it, telling myself that she was just playing around, that I had no right to be jealous. She was free-spirited, after all. But the truth was, I was falling deeper for her, and the more I loved her, the more I ignored the warnings in my head. It wasn't until the day she met Nathan that everything began to shift. Nathan was everything I wasn't, confident, outgoing, the type of man who could charm anyone with a single word. He and Eleanor clicked instantly, and for the first time, I felt like I was on the outside looking in. Their chemistry was undeniable, the kind of chemistry that pulled her in without effort, without hesitation. Nathan didn't need to try. He was just there, and that was enough for her. At first, I thought it was nothing. Just a passing flirtation, a harmless crush. But the more time passed, the more I began to see how much she needed him, more than she needed me. And that's when I started to question everything. Was I just a placeholder? Someone to keep her entertained until someone better came along? Nathan was the kind of man who could give her everything I couldn't. The excitement, the attention, the adventure. I thought I knew Eleanor. I thought I understood what we had, but Nathan showed me how little I truly knew her. He didn't just take her attention, he took her heart. And it wasn't long before Eleanor was torn between two worlds, my world and his. I was devastated, but I told myself I would be patient. I believed love was something that could be earned. So, I waited. I waited for her to come back to me, to realize what we had. But with every passing day, it became clearer. Eleanor wasn't coming back. The worst part? She didn't even know she was doing it. She didn't know how deeply she was betraying me. I wasn't a part of her life anymore, I was a shadow in her past, a footnote in her story. Nathan, however, was her future. And that was the beginning of the unraveling. Eleanor made her choice. She chose him, Nathan, the man who promised her everything she thought she wanted. They got engaged quickly, a whirlwind romance that had everyone convinced it was the perfect fairy tale. I didn't know what hurt more, seeing her with him or realizing that I wasn't even a thought in her mind anymore. But that's when the cracks started to show. The more time she spent with Nathan, the more I noticed subtle changes. She wasn't the same, and neither was her relationship with him. There were moments of tension, moments where she would look at him, and I could see the doubt in her eyes. The smiles didn't reach her heart anymore. The affection felt forced, like she was performing a role, not living in the truth of who she was. I knew what was coming, because I had seen this before. The lies. The half-truths. The pretending. She wasn't just unsure of him, she was unsure of herself. But that was the key. I wasn't done with Eleanor, not by a long shot. I knew she wasn't happy, and I knew there was more to this story than just a happy engagement. Because while she might have been getting ready to walk down the aisle to Nathan, she had no idea that the real battle wasn't between her and him, it was between her and me. And now, I was ready to make her see the truth. I never expected it to happen like this. It was a Thursday afternoon when everything came crashing down. I had heard the whispers, seen the glances, but it wasn't until that moment that the full weight of her betrayal hit me. I had been following her, like I always did. Not in a creepy way, but more out of necessity, out of curiosity. I told myself it was for closure, that I needed to understand what was going on with her and Nathan, to understand what went wrong. I had to see it with my own eyes. Seeing her choose him over me, even though I already knew the outcome. She was meeting him for lunch at a cafe, nothing too unusual. But I wasn't prepared for what happened next. As I watched from the shadows of the cafe across the street, my eyes locked onto something that made my heart stop. Eleanor, my Eleanor, was sitting there with Nathan, but something was off. Her laughter wasn't genuine. The smiles weren't reaching her eyes. It was like watching a performance, a rehearsed act that neither of them believed. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part came when Nathan leaned in, his hand slipping casually around her waist. And she didn't pull away. Instead, she kissed him. Not just a soft peck. No. This was a kiss full of desperation, full of a longing I had seen before, in her with me. I wanted to look away. I wanted to pretend it was nothing, that I hadn't seen it, but I couldn't. The emotions surged within me. Anger. Confusion. Hurt. It all hit me like a tidal wave, and I couldn't keep myself from watching, even as I saw them disappear into the back of the cafe, out of sight. I couldn't breathe. But that wasn't the twist. No. The twist came when I pulled my phone from my pocket, scrolling through the messages I had been receiving for the last week. Unseen, unnoticed by Eleanor, I had been carefully piecing together what she'd been hiding. There it was, the message that stopped everything. It was from a number I didn't recognize. I think you should know. Eleanor is not who you think she is. She's been seeing someone else, and it's not Nathan. My breath caught in my throat. I thought it was a mistake at first, someone trying to sabotage her engagement, to pull us apart. But as I read through the following messages, the pieces clicked together in a way I never could have imagined. It wasn't just a betrayal by Eleanor. It was something far deeper. The messages were from someone I hadn't even considered. Someone I should have been keeping my eyes on all along. The truth was right there in front of me, and I had been too blind to see it. My mind raced. Who could it be? Who could Eleanor be seeing, really seeing, behind Nathan's back? I dug deeper, tracing the messages back to their source. The name that appeared on the screen made my blood run cold. It was Maya, Nathan's sister. Eleanor and Nathan's sister had been involved in something for months, something neither Nathan nor I had known about. The betrayal was twofold, a tangled mess of lies and deceit. Eleanor had been hiding the truth from all of us. She wasn't in love with Nathan. She was in love with his sister. I stood there, frozen, my phone slipping from my fingers as the weight of the revelation crushed me. The woman I had spent years trying to understand, trying to love, had played me. She had played all of us. And Nathan? He was oblivious, as usual. He had no idea that his sister was the other half of Eleanor's lies. The pieces were falling into place with horrifying clarity. Eleanor hadn't just been playing me, she had been playing both of us, weaving a web of deceit that none of us had been able to see. I needed to confront her, to make her admit what she had done. But I wasn't going to do it the easy way. No, I wasn't going to let her walk away from this. Not after everything. I had spent so long in the shadows, waiting for the right moment, and now I had it. I wasn't just going to expose her. I was going to make her feel the same agony I had felt, the pain of being played, of being deceived. I was going to destroy everything she had built with Nathan, with Maya, and with her perfect little life. As I stood there in the middle of the street, staring at my phone, a strange calm washed over me. For the first time in months, I wasn't consumed by anger. I was consumed by something else, clarity. I knew what I had to do. And it would hurt. But it was the only way to make her understand the cost of betrayal. I stared at the phone screen, my fingers shaking as I typed out a single message. You've made a mistake, Eleanor. And you're about to regret it. I hit send, and as the message delivered, the weight of what I had done hit me. She would know. She would finally know that I had seen the truth, all of it. But then came the question, what was she going to do about it? The revelation hung in the air, unanswered. What would happen next? Would she try to deny it, cover it up, or would she face the consequences of her actions head-on? One thing was certain, I had just unleashed a storm. And Eleanor had no idea what was coming for her. In the midst of betrayal, I was beginning to see a path that led straight to my revenge. The only question that remained was, how far would I be willing to go to make her feel every ounce of pain she had caused me? And the truth, as I was about to learn, was that I was willing to go further than anyone could imagine. It wasn't until that night that everything unraveled even more. I thought I had uncovered it all. The lie Eleanor had spun, the deceit with Nathan and his sister, Maya, but the truth was even darker than I could have ever imagined. The moment I sent that message, I had expected her to reply immediately. To at least acknowledge it, maybe try to explain herself. But the hours passed, and nothing came. I thought it might have been an oversight, maybe she was in the middle of something. But as the night grew colder, a sense of unease crawled under my skin. I wasn't prepared for the second betrayal. It came in the form of an unexpected knock on my door. It was late, past midnight, and I had been sitting alone in my apartment, replaying the day's events, stewing over my next move. The knock echoed through the silence, sharp and insistent. I opened the door, half expecting it to be Eleanor or Maya, both of them prepared for a confrontation. But when I looked into the face of the person standing there, I felt the ground shift beneath me. It was Nathan. He stood there, his broad frame filling the doorway, his eyes bloodshot from what I could only assume was the culmination of a long day of stress. His tie was loose, the suit jacket slightly wrinkled, his hair disheveled as if he had been running his hands through it, thinking. He looked nothing like the confident, charming man he had appeared to be in front of Eleanor. He wasn't angry. He wasn't even upset. He looked tired. Tired and defeated. "I need to talk to you," he said, his voice low, almost broken. I stepped aside, my mind racing. What could he possibly want? What was this all about? Was this his way of confronting me about Eleanor? Or was there something else lurking beneath the surface? He entered without waiting for an invitation, his presence filling the room. I could feel the tension between us, the history we shared, a history of indirect rivalry, of competing for Eleanor's attention. But there was something else in the air now, something I couldn't place. "Is she," Nathan began, his voice faltering. "Is she really, with you?" The words hit me like a slap. The question was simple, but the weight of it crashed over me, leaving me momentarily speechless. He was asking if Eleanor had been with me that night, the night she had kissed me like she needed me more than anything. I knew I should have lied, said something to make him feel better, but I couldn't bring myself to. The truth was too painful, and maybe, just maybe, I wanted him to feel what I had felt for so long. "Yes," I said flatly, meeting his gaze. "She came to me last night, Nathan. She begged me for one last night together before she walked down the aisle. She kissed me." Nathan didn't flinch. He didn't show the anger or heartbreak I had expected. Instead, he closed his eyes, as though trying to shut out the image. For a moment, I thought he would collapse, but he stayed standing, swallowing hard. "I know," he whispered. "I've known for a while." My heart skipped a beat. He knew. How could he have known and still gone through with it? "You knew?" I asked, my voice rising. "You knew she was still involved with me? You knew she was kissing me behind your back, and you still decided to marry her?" Nathan's eyes met mine, and there was a sad smile on his face. "I didn't have a choice, man. I don't have a choice." "What the hell are you talking about?" I demanded, confused. "I'm not an idiot," he continued, his voice steady now. "I know Eleanor. She's always been a bit unpredictable. She's never fully committed to anyone. I know she's been with you, and I know she's been with Maya, but I also know that she's playing a dangerous game. And, honestly, I'm just trying to keep it together. Keep it from falling apart completely. I thought I could save her, but now I see how deep it all runs." My chest tightened. This wasn't what I had expected. Nathan wasn't the man I thought he was. He wasn't just some oblivious fool who had been duped by a woman he loved. He was aware of the lies, the manipulation. But there was more. He wasn't just upset about Eleanor, he was afraid. Afraid of what Eleanor was capable of, afraid of losing the little stability she had left in her life. "So, what? You're just going to let her destroy everything?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Nathan sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I don't know what to do anymore. I thought I could save her from herself, from all the chaos she's been living in. But now, I don't even know who she is anymore. She's not the person I thought I was marrying." His words hit me harder than I expected. This wasn't just a betrayal of me, this was a betrayal of everything Nathan had tried to build with Eleanor. "I'm sorry, man," he said quietly, turning toward the door. "I thought I was doing the right thing. But I guess I was just too blind to see what was right in front of me." I stood there, stunned, as Nathan walked out of the apartment, leaving me in a state of shock. As I closed the door behind him, a sick realization settled in: this wasn't just Eleanor playing us. She had manipulated both of us, and Maya, in ways that I had never even considered. Eleanor wasn't just lost in her own web of lies, she was using everyone around her to keep herself from facing the truth. But there was something else, something even more dangerous, hiding in the shadows. I wasn't the only one who had been deceived. As I thought back to those messages I had received earlier from Maya, I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more going on, something even more complicated than I could have ever guessed. What if Maya wasn't just a victim in all of this? What if she was playing her own game? What if she had her own hidden agenda? The pieces were shifting, and every time I thought I had it figured out, the puzzle expanded. There was no clear enemy anymore, just a web of betrayal, manipulation, and shattered trust. And as I prepared for the next move, I realized that Eleanor, Nathan, and Maya weren't the only ones caught in this tangled mess. I was too. I had always been a patient man, but the betrayal I had suffered at the hands of Eleanor, Nathan, and Maya, it cut deeper than anything I could have ever prepared for. It wasn't just about the love that had been shattered, or the trust that had been trampled. It was a lie. The manipulation. The feeling of being played, a pawn in someone else's game. But now, everything has changed. I was done being the victim. I had been hiding in the shadows long enough. It was time for me to take control, to show them the cost of betrayal, to make them feel the weight of their actions. And I wasn't going to play fair. The plan began the moment I realized the full extent of Eleanor's deception. She had convinced Nathan that everything was fine, all while maintaining an affair with Maya, and then coming to me for closure. I could feel the rage building inside me as I thought of how easily they had manipulated me, how I had allowed myself to fall for their games. But that would be their first mistake. Underestimating my ability to turn the tables. The first step in my plan was to expose Eleanor's true character. I knew Nathan would never believe me, not without undeniable proof. He had loved her too deeply, and had been blinded by the idea of saving her from herself. But Maya? Maya was different. She was the key to unraveling everything. I'd already learned that she was not as innocent as she appeared. If anyone could be convinced to turn on Eleanor, it was Maya. I had my doubts about Maya, she was unpredictable, slippery. But she had her own reasons for wanting to destroy Eleanor's world. I didn't need her to love me. I didn't even need her to like me. I just needed her to understand what Eleanor had done to her. I needed to make Maya see that she was just as much a victim of Eleanor's lies as Nathan and I had been. So, I approached her. Not in person, but through messages, anonymous, of course. At first, I was unsure how far I could push her, but it didn't take long for her to take the bait. You're not the first woman Eleanor has betrayed. She's been with Nathan, and she's been with me. But she'll never choose either of us. I watched as the message was delivered, sitting back and waiting for the response. It came swiftly, faster than I expected. Who is this? Maya replied, her words cold, guarded. I could sense the tension in her, the curiosity battling with her instinct for self-preservation. She was smart, calculating, just like Eleanor. But there was one thing Maya didn't have, the illusion of control. Someone who knows her better than you think. Someone who's been where you are. Eleanor's playing you, Maya. She's been playing all of us. You know that, don't you? I waited, and for a moment, I thought she would block me, ignore the message, but then came her reply. What do you want? I smiled. This was it. This was the moment I had been waiting for. I didn't want to confront Eleanor directly yet. She wasn't ready for that. She was still caught in her web of lies, still trying to maintain the perfect facade. But I could feel her slipping, losing control. The cracks were widening, and now, I was going to make sure they became chasms. I needed to make her life unbearable, to put her in a position where she would have no choice but to confront the consequences of her actions. So, I started small. Subtle. It was time to chip away at her perfect little world. I made sure Nathan began to notice things, small things, at first. A late-night message that Eleanor couldn't explain. A slip of the tongue, a comment that didn't quite add up. I planted seeds of doubt. All I needed was for Nathan to start questioning her. I also made sure Eleanor and I crossed paths at just the right moments. At a party one night, I was there, standing just close enough to her to catch her off guard. She didn't know I was watching when she flirted with another man, her eyes sparkling with that same charm that once captivated me. I made sure Nathan was nearby. He saw it. I saw the confusion in his eyes as he watched Eleanor, the woman he was about to marry, behave like this. I let the suspicion fester. But the real bombshell came when I reached out to Maya again, pushing her further, feeding her paranoia and resentment. You're a fool if you think Eleanor cares about you. You're just a placeholder. She's using you to keep Nathan from leaving her. She'll never love you the way she loves herself. I watched as Maya began to break. She replied quickly, her responses becoming more frantic. What do you want from me? She asked, her anger bubbling through the screen. I don't want to lose Nathan. You think I don't know she's playing me? But I need her, too. She's my family, my only connection. The weakness in her voice, the desperation, I knew I could exploit that. I told her everything. About the affair with Nathan. About how Eleanor had twisted her heart and mind, just like she had twisted mine. Then, I planted the final seed. It's not too late to take control, Maya. You can expose her. You can end this, or you can keep playing her game and watch her destroy everything. It's your choice. I left her with that, an ultimatum. The psychological game had begun. Maya, desperate and vulnerable, would play her part in unraveling Eleanor's life, whether she realized it or not. The final piece of the puzzle was the wedding. I knew Eleanor was still going through with it. She was determined to walk down the aisle, to pretend that everything was fine. But it wasn't fine. And I was going to make sure the whole world knew it. I had already laid the groundwork. Maya was ready to pull the trigger. I knew the moment would come when she would finally confront Eleanor, when the truth would come pouring out. And then, just before the wedding ceremony, I made sure to send one last message. This time, it wasn't Maya or Nathan. It was to Eleanor. You thought you could have it all. But you can't. Not anymore. The truth is coming out. It's too late to stop it. You're going to lose everything, Eleanor. Just like you lost me. I made sure she saw it. I knew she would. And I knew she would panic. The moment arrived faster than I had expected. The church was packed with guests. Eleanor stood at the altar, her smile radiant, but her eyes betrayed her. She was nervous, glancing around, as if waiting for something to happen. She knew something was wrong, and deep down, she knew I was the one behind it all. As she made her way down the aisle, I could see Nathan's face, confused, unsure, but still holding on to the image of the woman he loved. And then, it happened. Maya stood up, just as the vows were about to begin, and she did something I never could have predicted. She walked up to the altar and handed Nathan a letter. The letter was simple, one word on the front, truth. Nathan opened it, his eyes scanning the paper. And then his face turned pale. He looked at Eleanor, his voice shaking. Is this true? Have you been with her? Eleanor's world crumbled in that instant. The truth was out. Her perfect image, the life she had so carefully constructed, had shattered. Maya, torn between love and betrayal, had exposed everything. I watched from the back of the room, a twisted satisfaction filling me. Eleanor's face fell, the realization hitting her as she turned to Nathan. But it was too late. The damage had been done. In that moment, I realized something profound. I wasn't just seeking revenge for the way she had hurt me. I was seeking justice, for myself, for Nathan, and for everyone she had manipulated. As Eleanor stood there, humiliated, her tears falling, I walked out of the church, leaving her to face the consequences of her actions alone. The final blow had been delivered. She had lost everything. And as I stepped into the cold night air, I knew that my revenge was complete. Eleanor would never find peace. Not after what she had done. And as for me, I had walked through fire and come out unscathed. The pain was gone. The chaos had subsided. And now, I could move on, knowing that I had finally taken control of my life. Revenge, I learned, wasn't just about making someone suffer, it was about regaining the power they took from you. And now, I was free.